I ask for a serious offer, and actually get one. Elsewhere, smiley face. Hi guys. I recently discovered MC and read like 10 hours non-stop. I hope this fits well here. And sorry beforehand. English is not my first language. This happened around 5 years ago. I was working in an early stage startup as a software developer. The former developer quit before I entered and I was his replace. One part of the offer was becoming a partner with some shares of the company at one point. I showed a lot of initiative, always giving new ideas and trying to improve things. One important detail is that my only boss at the time was the CEO. After around 4 months they hired a guy who was friend of the founder of the company, and he had pretty good references since he worked before in one of the biggest companies of that country. So, this guy started being my boss now, and his background is from another field. So he didn't know anything about the technology, software, language we used, etc. Anyways, I instantly notice his presence. Since before him, the office was pretty quiet, and after this guy came in, he started making calls all the time or talking with the CEO in front of everybody. Our office was only one room, so it was pretty hard to ignore it. Before this, I was always overworking, arriving at the office around 9 and working until 20 or so, simply because I loved the project. But after I noticed how loud the presence of Mr. New Boss was, I started going pretty early in the morning, so I could work at least from 7:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. until Mr. New Boss comes in. The best about this was when I was leaving at 1700. He was always shocked because the first days he saw I had a different schedule. Since he got in charge, everything was top priority. We had a few meetings where I explained him my point of view about this. But it didn't change much. For you to understand the kind of changes he was doing, here is an example. We had the typical to-do list with 3 status: to do, doing, done. He changed this to a to-do and done only, because this would save time. So, I didn't know on what the mobile developer was working on and if he needed something from my side. Right away, looking at the to-do list, I had to manually ask him and also update him when I needed something from his side. Well, after a few months with Mr. New Boss on board, I decided I needed to be a partner or leave the company. I explained this situation to the CEO and to Mr. New Boss and basically said that I did a lot of things during this time. They loved my work, so I needed to be partner as the offer specified at the beginning of the contract. CEO told me, "We will get back to you with an offer." Mr. New Boss nods. In the meantime, I was making some interviews with a company in another country and I received an offer. It was 3 times my current salary. CEO and Mr. New Boss called me after a few days to have a chat. Mr. New Boss showed some papers with some vague information and then started talking about how important is being a partner. It is not a 9 to 17 job, making reference at my schedule that I changed since he entered. And then he said a lot of BS about compromise and no weekends and non-paid extra hours and so on. He finished his speech and the CEO didn't say a single word. Mr. New Boss asked me what do I think about that. So I answered, I think I was waiting for an offer with numbers and I don't see any. MNB. Well, before that happening we need to see you are actually willing to work like I mentioned before. Staying later than 17 for example. Me. I am not. I am giving you my 2-week notice right now. I already have an offer waiting for me in another country. MNB. Yeah. Sure. No worries. I understand. The CEO said nothing. I came back to the office and tell the new company I take the job. And in 2 weeks I'll be moving there. The next day, Mr. New Boss asked to talk with me and he offered me a 10% raise. I told him, no thanks. I already took the other job. 2 days after that, same story. He told me that he thinks he can get me 30% raise. I laughed unintentionally, because he was still trying to convince me, and said, "No, thanks man. And don't keep trying, because it is useless." MNB. Okay, sure. So, let me ask you something if you don't mind. Me. Sure, boss. MNB. How much did they offer you? Without him even finishing, I answered, 300%, MNB. Okay, nice. He stopped trying to convince me after this talk. I still had one more week at the company, so the last day, the founder appears. He was on top of CEO, by the way. He called me for a chat, and went straight to the point. Can I offer you anything for you to stay? Me. Not now. I am actually traveling tomorrow. Okay. I am sad things went this way. If any time you want to come back, talk to me directly. I can help you with relocation, flight tickets, whatever you need. Doors are open. Me. Thanks. I appreciate that. So, I start working in the new company and I still help the old one in the transition a few hours a week. Paid. Of course. They hired a new guy and he needed some help. MNB. New guy needs some help installing language we use. Me. Let me say if I understand. New guy is a language we use developer and needs help installing language we use. Is that correct? MNB. Yes. Me. Interesting. Sure boss. So I helped this guy with a few things and after a few days I completely finished my collaboration with them and focused 100% in the new company. Few months later, Mr. New Boss quits. 2 more months. Mobile dev quits. New guy quits. CEO quits. Sounds like you got out just in time. One bad apple spoiled the company. They were focused on keeping the pie for themselves, not realizing they chased away the baker. Few months later, Mr. New Boss quits. 2 more months. Mobile dev quits. New guy quits. CEO quits. Oh wow. So if they had followed through on their promise, it sounds like you might have not had a job. If my assumption of they were quitting because the company crashed. Since he got in charge, everything was top priority. Big red warning sign of a clueless fool. If everything is top priority, then nothing is. A quick way to demonstrate this occurs to me. There are 3 emergencies unfolding in a building. On the first floor, you have a heart attack patient being desperately CPR'd by an elderly man whose strength is failing, and obviously needs a younger person to take over. The second floor is engulfed in flames. In the basement is a nuclear bomb that has been inadvertently activated. Deactivating it is something that anyone with a modicum of handiness with their hands can be talked through by a bomb tech on the phone. All of these situations are emergencies, but they cannot all be top priority, because, in fact, one of them must be prioritized over the other. In case it's not clear, the order of priority is nuclear bomb disarmament, fire control, and CPR. MNB. New guy needs some help installing language we use. Me. Let me say if I understand. New guy is a language we use developer and needs help installing language we use. Is that correct? Quote, I went through this myself when I worked for the Department of Education for a fruit nicknamed City on the East Coast between Boston and Washington, D.C. Had a Tier 3, higher than my own Tier 2, technician come over and ask me how to do something on a Cisco switch. Mind you, part of the reason he had been hired was because of his Cisco certifications. Wouldn't have been an issue if he hadn't asked me something that anyone who has ever worked with a Cisco router or switch for more than a day should know how to do. Something like doing dir in Microsoft's command line, or else in Nix. One of those really early lessons that you'll probably use every day if you work with Cisco. I really think that at some point you should have reported that new boss was noisily dominating the workspace, which breaks everybody's concentration. At least then there would have been a chance for a remedy. I don't have to imagine how annoying that kind of thing is. I have lived it. On the other hand, you may have missed out on that 300% increase. Lesson to managers: manage the workroom atmosphere, especially if what you are paying is not worth the irritation. Fun post. But I don't think this is quite the right sub for it. I don't see how any of the compliance was malicious. Dear Op, I believe this is more a post for our anti-work. To be at MC, they would have to say something like, if you don't like it, find another job. If they said it, include it so as to be a true MC. Edit. I did like your story. Would want to know if the company still exists. Yep. Happens all the time. Unfortunately, usually without the happy ending. Less than pedant and offer 3x your current rate is 200%, not 300%. Less than pedant.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.